Hello and welcome to sim.bc, where it right now is, well, let's just check me phone. That was a long time ago now, wasn't it? 17:23 in the evening. Yes, it's officially evening now for once, right? For once, yet again, we're getting closer to that 7 o'clock time. And why are we doing that? Well, because I've had some things to do this week, or rather today. Sorry, I meant today. And what have I been doing? Well, I've been getting all of those emails saying that, well, we're actually considering you for the position at this internship. And I'm like, oh, really? Is it because of the YouTube channel? And they're like, you have a YouTube channel? And after that, they didn't respond. No, of course not. That's not the case. But they said that, well, we've considered you for an interview. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. That's nice. That's great. And we need you to do it through Skype. And I was like, yeah, I have a very old Skype. Sure. They're like, link us your Skype ID. And I was like, what is my Skype ID again? So I went and I spent, like, literally, I don't even kidding. I spent about 30 minutes looking for my Skype ID. Turns out that's my Skype name is my Skype ID. My Skype name is my Skype ID. Apparently. And I spent 30 minutes looking at it, thinking like, that's not correct. I googled all the things. It told me it was supposed to be there. And I'm like, it's not there. It's just my Skype name. And then I found this site that said, oh, well, it's basically the same thing. So I made a new account for the corporation, right? For sim.bc that I'm not going to use, because I was unsure yet again if I knew what the ID was. So I just searched for myself, found myself the other account, and I used that and I sent it away. It was all fine, all good. And something else that I've done today, probably going to be involved in the SNC, the Saturday News Recap. Yeah, it has an abbreviation. It's kind of an official thing right now. Am I right, people? Am I right? And that is that today I signed my first music contract. Sounds cooler than it is. It's about STEM, something like that it's called. And it's apparently, we're gonna get into that on the SNC. We're gonna get into it in the SNC. So just bear with me for that. So you juicy one when it comes to this channel's internal news for this week. But today, mates, that's not why you're here. You're not here to talk about, to listen to me talking about music. Because if you want to do that, you can either go to SoundCloud or you can go to, well, the videos that I've uploaded on the channel, which I prefer that you go to. Because I'm gonna, work on the ones on SoundCloud. I don't even think I've linked the ones on SoundCloud. Anyway, mates, you're not here to listen to me talking about that. Neither are you here to listen to me talking about Skype and my internships. No, you're here because we're in a new project. And that project, ladies and gentlemen, is a founder's problem. That is the project that we are working with. And today we're going to tackle the first piece of information, the first point. Kind of the same thing that we talked about yesterday when setting the stage, when putting out the context to what a founder actually is, and so on and so forth. But today we're going to talk about... It is a well-known fact that for a startup to flourish, only 20% of the idea is required and the rest 80% of the work is the execution. And that is kind of what I was focusing on yesterday when I was talking about all of that. Well, technically, I can spend as much time as I want to doing things because, yet again, 80% of the success here when it comes to a startup is in the execution, the time you put in and how you put it in. But what they're actually meaning with this point, or what I am actually trying to convey here with this point, isn't that you just necessarily need to put in a lot of time. Now, sure, that is important as well, putting in the time so that you actually get going, because I've heard so many people saying that I have the best idea ever. I'm going to be a million, billion, super trillionaire. And I'm like, that's all fine and dandy. And that idea might actually work. And I've been in that position. For God's sake, I wrote a book, right? I was an author. And I thought that, well, this is going to be the bestseller. I don't have to work a day in my life. Turns out that's quite of a boring lifestyle, I would argue, if you don't have like a ludicrous amount of money, which I probably wouldn't get. But the idea there was that I had the idea for the book. I actually wrote the book. But when I wrote the book and I finished the book, I kind of felt finished. I kind of felt like now it's supposed to sell. But, you need to put it out there, put it onto the shelves, put it through a corporation who, edits it and works with it. So it's not only about you having an idea and not only about you putting in the hours. Because the example of my book here that I'm trying to convey is that it's quite important how you execute the time you use as well. So, for instance, let's say my book yet again. I put in all of the hours in actually writing the book. Now, was that the best source of action? Was that the best way of actually dealing with this opportunity, with this idea? Because many people have ideas that they don't act on. They just have an idea and then they don't do anything with it. They go back to, they're stuck in their, 9-to-5 job, and they can't do anything about it. Oh, that's actually kind of a lyric in the song that I'm writing. Teasing them all for future reference, now it's not going to matter because I'm going to probably release that in like a month or so. But then you can go back and you can say, I should probably stop talking about that now. Anyway, the idea here is still that you should not only put in the time, you should not only put in the hours, but you need to put in the hours in such a way that it actually makes sense. Do you remember when we talked about scaling when it came to questions? Sure, scaling is good. Kind of the same thing and kind of the same idea that putting in the hours is good. So that you don't only have an idea, so that you don't only have a question, but you need to execute it correctly. Don't only put in lots of time when it doesn't make any sense. For instance, yesterday I was thinking about, making a song. I was, writing the lyrics down, and I sat and played on the piano, but I didn't actually combine the two. One can argue that, I was looking for inspiration and sorceration and perspiration and all of those good things, but in honest reality, I just sat there and played on the piano, isolated from the lyrics that I had written. And that's not good. Why is that not good? Because I put in lots of time and I probably felt quite happy when I walked away from there as well. Like, I put in all of the time. Now I'm actually done. I probably can release it tomorrow. But I haven't actually done anything. So I'm going away from there, spending like 8 hours at the keyboard with my phone, writing down lyrics, without actually having accomplished anything. Yet again, going back to the book, and I'm going to go into a third example that I think is a bit more relatable. But just to finish off with the book, is that I spent lots of time writing the book, and then I felt done. And that's not good, because I didn't have a clear schedule of where those 80% of the work, the 80% of the execution, 80% of the time put in were gonna go. So I spent it all on actually writing the book and not actually making it further than actually finishing the book. See what I'm saying? And many of you can probably say that, well, if you have it done, then you can just do that now, can't you? Yeah, I read it. Turns out I wasn't done. I thought for sure that I was done when I wrote it. I've reread it, and I've come to the conclusion that if I release that, I need to go into hiding somewhere. That's how bad it is. I mean, sure, it's like 300 pages, but still, it lacks so much creativity. It's so generic. Anyway, mates, that might be a future project. But what we're gonna move into now, which is quite a good example, is that let's say that you have an idea of studying. Yeah? And many of you will find yourself in this situation, I'm sure. So many of you would sit there and say, I need to study for this test, but I don't really want to. But anyway, you've been waiting for weeks, you've been waiting for months, it's a year in, and the final exams are in a week. They're due to you in a week, so you need to be in school. You have all of them books stapled up in different rows and different piles beside you, and you're working through them, up and down, up and down, up and down. Or at least that's your, the idea you had that you were going to do. So you had an idea of doing this. But then when you actually came to school and you probably met up with some of your mates, yeah? You probably met up with some of your friends because you're going to study together. And we all know how that works out. Gary's taking out his phone. Jerry is throwing his computer away. Someone is like constantly bugging you all of the time for no good reason. And you have basically spent, let's say for argument's sake, let's be gentle here and say 4 hours just sitting around doing nothing with your mates in school with all of your books open. So you had an idea, 20%, right? You went to school and put in the hours. You were in school for 4 hours. The execution, though, wasn't really good. Now, was it? Because you've just been sitting there with all the books open, but not actually studying. You see what I'm saying here? And the worst part about this is probably that when you walk away, you will feel like, aha, I've made lots of good things. I was in school for 4 long hours with me mates, and we had the books open at all time. Sure, did you read them? What? No, I didn't read them. Do I need to read them? Isn't it enough that I was in school? Isn't that studying? The book was open, I mind you, and you're just like, Oh, yeah, sure, that works, I guess. And the same thing, and we're gonna carry this over now and neatly knit it together before we finish. The idea here is that if you are a founder and you have an idea, even if, let's back it up. Let's make it even even earlier. That's the word. Except I know them English. Yep. Let's back it up even further and say that you have an idea. Right? That's good. You have an idea of a business, you have the multi-billion, zillion, trillion dollar idea, whatever you're saying to your mates, right? Whatever you're saying that you're going to make, and you're not going to work a day in your life because you're going to be financially, independent because you have this brilliant idea that nobody has ever done before, and you most likely have gotten it from, someone else that has been talking about a very successful venture that they did, and when they did it, it didn't exist, but now you're trying to copy them. It's going to put that out there. I'm not saying that everybody does that, but I've been recognizing myself, right? Like 9 out of 10 ideas I have is something that I've heard about that they've said is a gap in the market, and I'm like, that's so smart. And then it takes like 7 days, 14 days, and I think that I've come up with the same idea because I came up with it without thinking about that specific event in correlation to myself. Anyway, you're coming up with this idea. We're getting back to it, right, mates? I'm on track. I have a schedule, right? I have a plan in mind, even though this is raw and I'm making it up as I go, mates. So you have this idea. You're putting in the hours. You also need to, first and foremost, you need to actually make the effort to put in the hours. One can argue that that's, hard too. Because many people, let's say that 90% of the people start off with, I have an idea. About half of them, no, let's say even less. About 40% of them, so down here, are actually initiating that idea. And about 10% of those people are actually putting in the time, down here, are putting in the time in the right way. See what I'm saying here? Down here you have your Elon Musks, you have your Mark Zuckerberg, your Bill Gates. In the middle you have me, you get sim.bc, and up here you have me mates who are saying they're going to be economically independent, and yet they're stuck in a 9-to-5 job which they don't like and they don't feel is inspiring. And that is a part of the founder's problem. You don't only need to have a good idea of what you're going to found, what you're going to do, you also need to find the way of putting in the time so that you can actually work with it. And not only that, you need to actually work with it in a good way. Yeah, that's true. You can't just only work with your passion because it's fun. You need to work with your passion in a good way as well, or at least a unique way, so that you can make some money out of it. Because in the end, if you just have something that you're very passionate about, make it your hobby, right? If you can't utilize it correctly. But if you want to follow it, unfortunately, you probably do need to, think about it like a business, which arguably will take out the fun and the passion, but arguably can stay as well. Depends on how you're looking at it. And that's another point actually for another time. So that was everything for me today, mates. Tomorrow we're going to continue this little project. I'm having a schedule, right? So see ya. Thank you all for watching. Leave a comment and enjoyed, the discussion. Let's learn together and all of that good stuff. And due to, YouTube's new algorithm, I need to say like and subscribe because apparently that's the best way of retaining viewers. Even though I don't want to. Not that I don't want to retain viewers. Sorry, I'm just digging me a hole deeper here, backing myself into a corner. So I'm just going to say, have a nice one, mates. See ya.